June 17, 1944. 16:41 hours. 5 United States Marines rode bicycles through Garapan, the administrative capital of Japanese, held Saipan in broad daylight, past 200 enemy soldiers, past officers who waved and shouted greetings. For 43 minutes, they mapped every gun position, counted every supply, identified every fortification. The Japanese never suspected, because the 5 Americans weren't trying to hide. They were hiding in plain sight. This suicide reconnaissance conducted by criminals recruited from military prisons would save 2,000 Marine lives and create the doctrine that became Navy SEALs. But to understand why Captain Robert Mitchell was willing to send criminals on a mission that could start a war crimes trial if they were captured, you need to go back. Back to November 1943. Back to a beach called Tarawa. Back to the morning his younger brother died in the first wave. USS Maryland rode at anchor 12 miles off Batio Island. The sky was tropical blue. Clear. Perfect. The kind of morning that promised nothing but horror. Captain Robert Mitchell stood on the command deck with binoculars pressed to his face, watching Higgins boats approach the reef line 600 yards from shore. His younger brother Jimmy was in the third boat from the left. 2nd Battalion, 2nd Marines, 23 years old, Pittsburgh kid who'd followed Rob into the Corps against their mother's desperate pleas. She'd already buried their father. Factory accident in 1939. Losing both sons to this war would destroy her. Rob had promised to keep Jimmy safe. Empty promise now as the boats hit coral barrier too far from shore. Marines jumping into chest-deep water. Some vanishing immediately, dragged under by 60 pounds of equipment. Others wading forward through a lagoon turning red. Japanese machine guns opened fire from positions aerial reconnaissance had completely missed. The water erupted. Men died without reaching land. Died in water so clear you could see their bodies settling on white sand 20 feet down. Rob's hands gripped the binoculars, knuckles white. He wanted to order the boats back. Wanted to stop the assault. Wanted to do anything except watch his brother wade toward guns he couldn't see. The radio crackled. Combat frequencies overlapping. And underneath it all, Jimmy's voice cut through. Young, professional, terror underneath military discipline. 2nd Battalion taking heavy casualties at the seawall. Pinned down, pillbox at grid 27 firing directly down our position. We didn't know it existed. Aerial recon missed it. Going in blind, requesting artillery support. We're advancing now, tell Rob static. White noise where his brother's voice had been. Then screaming. Then static, then nothing. Rob tried raising Jimmy's unit, no response. Tried again, silence. The intelligence report arrived 6 hours later, typed on paper, thin as prayer. Lieutenant James Mitchell, age 24, confirmed killed in action at 0947 hours. Body recovered at seawall. Killed by machine gun fire from pillbox aerial reconnaissance failed to identify. 2nd Battalion Company E casualties, 63%. Most died in first 6 hours. Most died because intelligence was wrong. Because cameras at 10,000 feet couldn't see pillboxes hidden under palm logs and sand. Because Marines went in blind and walked into kill zones nobody warned them about. Rob sat in his quarters that night, couldn't sleep, wouldn't sleep, holding Jimmy's last letter. 3 pages in pencil, talking about home, about their mother's apple pie, about buying a house in Pittsburgh after the war, about being scared but never admitting it to anyone except his older brother. The telegram from home arrived 3 days later, mother's handwriting shaking across the envelope. They said Jimmy died serving his country, died bravely, did his duty. Rob, the officer, said Jimmy followed procedure perfectly. Did everything right. How does doing everything right get a boy killed? You're still fighting, promise me. Promise no more brothers die going in blind like Jimmy. Rob couldn't promise he'd come home, couldn't promise he wouldn't die the same way, but he could promise something else, something that might make Jimmy's death mean something beyond statistics and casualty reports. He pulled out his journal, leather-bound from officer school, wrote by flashlight because the generator was down and the words needed to come out before they burned through his chest. Jimmy died at that seawall because we didn't know what was there. 994 men died at Tarawa in 76 hours because aerial reconnaissance isn't good enough. We need eyes on the ground. Need men who can infiltrate Japanese positions before assault waves. Men who can see what photographs miss. Standard Marines won't work. They follow rules. Stay with units. Do what they're told. We need different. Need men who think for themselves, who break rules when rules don't make sense. Jimmy died following procedure. I'll make sure nobody else does. He closed the journal, made a decision that would change Marine Corps history. 2 months later, Colonel William Bradley would ask for volunteers. Rob Mitchell would raise his hand first, but the men he recruited wouldn't be heroes. They'd be criminals. 6th Marine Regiment headquarters occupied Quonset huts on the windward side of Hawaii. January 15, 1944. Colonel Bradley spread casualty reports across his desk like losing hands from a stacked deck. Tarawa, 994 dead. Macon, 66 dead. Roynamar, 195 dead. Every report told the same story. Marines taking fortified islands with inadequate intelligence, walking into kill zones, paying in blood for every yard of coral. Bradley looked at the 12 officers assembled. Rob Mitchell stood in back, listening, waiting. Gentlemen, we have a problem. We keep losing Marines to surprises we should have known about. Pillboxes we didn't see. Artillery we didn't find. Machine gun nests hidden in caves. Our aerial reconnaissance is inadequate. Photographs show terrain but miss fortifications. Men are dying because we don't have accurate intelligence. He paused. Let the words settle heavy in the humid air. I'm requesting permission to form a specialized unit, Scout Sniper Platoon. 40 men. They'll land with first wave, but won't advance with regular units. They'll push deep inland, behind enemy lines, map Japanese positions, radio coordinates, then stay out there, sometimes for days. No support, no rescue. The room erupted, voices overlapping like small arms fire. That's suicide. Japanese don't take prisoners. 40 men against entire garrison. They'd be wiped out in hours. Standard training doesn't prepare men for independent operations like that. Bradley held up his hand. Silence returned slowly. You're exactly right. Standard Marines won't work. This mission requires men who think independently, who make decisions without orders, who break rules when rules don't apply. He paused, dropped a proposal that would either revolutionize reconnaissance or end his career. I need men who already know how to break rules, men who've proven they survive in hostile environments, men who fight dirty. I'm proposing we recruit from the brigs. Absolute silence, the kind that presses against eardrums. Every military prison in the Pacific is full of Marines who broke regulations, fought, stole, showed bad attitudes. These are the worst Marines by official standards, but many are also survivors, fighters, men who bend rules because rules sometimes conflict with reality. Give them purpose. Give them training. Some will become the best Marines you've ever seen. He looked around the room, met each officer's eyes. If you think you can turn criminals into elite scouts, volunteer. If you think I'm insane, you're probably right. But I'd rather try something radical than watch another 1,000 Marines die going in blind. Rob Mitchell's hand went up. First volunteer. 3 more followed. Men who'd lost friends at Tarawa. Men who understood that repeating the same tactics and expecting different results was insanity. Bradley nodded at Rob. Mitchell, you're mission commander. 6 months to recruit 40 men from any brig in the Pacific. I'll authorize releases. Train them however you want. Then Saipan, 30,000 Japanese. You'll prove this works or prove me wrong. Rob stood, saluted, accepted the mission that would define everything that came after. When do I start, sir? Today. Saipan invasion is June. That's 22 weeks. Find 40 criminals. Turn them into Marines, no pressure. Camp Tarawa Military Prison was wooden stockade surrounded by wire. February 3, 1944. 23 prisoners, most there for minor infractions. Rob reviewed files looking for patterns. Private Danny Walsh caught his attention, 22 years old. Wyoming ranch kid, 6'2", 200 pounds, arrested for assault after beating another Marine unconscious. Rob read the incident report. Walsh had attacked a Marine making racist comments about a black corporal. The abuse had been ongoing. Walsh finally snapped. Put the racist in the infirmary. Broken jaw, cracked ribs, zero remorse. Rob interviewed Walsh in his cell. The kid stood when Rob entered. Military courtesy automatic despite prisoner status. Private Walsh. Tell me about the fight. Nothing to tell, sir. Corporal Williams is a good Marine. Other guys said he wasn't. Said Williams didn't belong in the Corps because of his skin. I disagreed. Expressed my disagreement physically. You could have reported him, could have, sir, but Williams saved my life at Bougainville. Dragged me from a crater while Japanese were shooting. Someone insults him, I handle it personally. Rob studied him. No fear, no regret, just calm certainty. You're getting out, coming with me. Walsh looked confused. I'm forming a unit. 40 men, all criminals, operating behind enemy lines. High casualties expected. Interested. Something shifted behind Walsh's eyes. Purpose replacing resignation. What do we prove, sir? That criminals can be heroes. That breaking rules can save lives. That worst Marines can become best warriors. When do we start Pearl Harbor Brig? February 12th, Rob found Marcus Cooper in solitary, 26 years old, Kentucky coal miner before war, professional boxer, arrested for assault after hospitalizing 3 sailors. The report said Cooper had intervened when he saw 3 sailors beating a smaller Marine. Put all 3 in the hospital, broken bones, concussions, fractured skull. The Marine escaped with minor injuries. Rob interviewed Cooper in his cell. The man was smaller than Walsh, 5'11", maybe 190, but moved like a fighter, balanced, controlled. Dangerous in the way predators are dangerous. Report says you put 3 sailors in the hospital. Accurate, yes, sir. Why they were 3? Marine was 1. Mathematics seemed wrong. You could have called Shore Patrol. Could have. But that Marine needed help right then, not 5 minutes later. So I helped. Rob appreciated the logic. Violence as immediate solution to immediate problem. How do you feel about confined spaces, caves, tunnels? Cooper's jaw tightened. Old fear surfacing. I manage, sir. You'll need better than manage. Japanese have extensive cave systems. We'll be infiltrating them. If you freeze, your whole team dies. Cooper met his eyes, no flinching. My father died in mine collapse when I was 12. 3 days to recover bodies. I've been afraid of tight spaces since, but I don't let fear stop me. That good enough, Rob nodded. Courage wasn't absence of fear. Courage was acting despite it. You're coming with me. Samoa Brig. February 18th. Corporal Vincent Romano, 24, son of Italian immigrants. Arrested for breaking another Marine's jaw after being called enemy alien. The insult cut deep because Vinny's father had been interned after Pearl Harbor despite being American citizen for 20 years. Despite having 2 sons serving. Despite everything his family sacrificed. Rob interviewed Vinny in the exercise yard. The kid was angry, ready to fight anyone about anything. Says here you broke a jaw over words. Over lies, sir. I'm American as anyone. More American because I prove it every day. My father got thrown in internment camp for being Italian. My brother's fighting in Europe. I'm here. We're all American. Anyone says different gets corrected. Rob understood. Understood having something to prove. I'm forming a unit. 40 criminals. Behind enemy lines. Dangerous missions. High impact. Saving Marine lives through intelligence. Interested. Vinny leaned forward, eyes calculating. What do we prove that criminals can be heroes when given chance? That breaking rules isn't always wrong. That worst Marines become best when properly motivated. And after, when war's over, after you'll have proven you're American through actions, not words. Service record that speaks for itself. Never justify your loyalty again. Vinny stood, extended hand. Rob shook it. I'm in, sir. Guadalcanal Brig, February 25th. Private Tommy Carson. 17, though enlistment papers claim 19. Texas farm kid. Ran from abusive stepfather. Lied about age. Joined in Marines to escape. Arrested for stealing rations. Reports said Carson had broken into supply depot. Taken 3 crates. Given them to hungry local children near base. Rob interviewed the kid in his cell. Tommy looked young, still had teenager features. But eyes were older, harder. Eyes that had seen things no 17-year-old should. You're 17. Papers say 19, sir. Papers lie. Do you? Tommy met his gaze. No shame. When I have to, sir. Why steal the rations? Kids were hungry. We had food. Mathematics seems simple. Rob smiled despite himself. Same logic as Cooper and Vinny. Mathematics of right and wrong. I'm putting together a unit. Dangerous work. Most scout snipers suffer 70% casualties. You're too young. I could send you stateside. Honorable discharge. Start over. Tommy shook his head. Immediate. Definitive. I came here to fight, sir. To matter. To prove I'm worth something. Sending me home doesn't accomplish that. I want in. Rob studied him. Saw himself at 17. Saw Jimmy. You'll be youngest in unit. Others will try to protect you. That stops when we land. Everyone pulls weight. No exceptions for age. Yes, sir. You'll probably die. Scout snipers have highest casualty rate in the Corps. We all die eventually, sir. I'd rather die doing something that matters than live doing nothing. By mid-March, Rob had recruited 40 men from brigs across the Pacific. Fighters, thieves, men with bad attitudes and good survival instincts. Now he had 12 weeks to turn them into something the Marine Corps had never seen. March through May 1944. Camp Tarawa, Hawaii. Training that would break criminals and rebuild them as warriors. Rob assembled the 40 on remote beach section. They stood in rough formation, some at attention, some slouched. Danny Walsh stood tall. Marcus Cooper balanced on balls of feet. Vinny Romano had arms crossed. Tommy Carson looked eager. Rob spoke without raising voice. 40 pairs of eyes locked on him. You're criminals. Everyone. You broke rules. Fought when you shouldn't. Stole. Showed bad judgment. Marine Corps put you in the brig because you're worst Marines in Pacific by official standards. He paused. Let it settle. I recruited you because worst Marines sometimes make best warriors. You know how to survive. Think independently. Break rules when rules don't make sense. Next 12 weeks, I'll train you to do what Marine Corps says is impossible. Operate alone behind enemy lines. Infiltrate Japanese positions. Kill silently. Survive when survival seems impossible. Another pause. Longer. Some won't make it through training. Some will quit. Some will wash out. The ones who remain become 1st Scout Sniper Platoon in Marine Corps history. June, you go to Saipan, 30,000 Japanese. You'll operate behind their lines, map positions, save lives through intelligence. Some won't come home. He looked at each face, memorizing. But Marines who do come home will be alive because you showed them where death was hiding. That's your mission. That's why you matter. Danny Walsh raised his hand. What do they call us, sir? Unit designation. Rob smiled. First genuine smile since Jimmy died. Officially Scout Sniper Platoon 6th Marines. Unofficially, other Marines call you 40 thieves because you keep stealing equipment. Name fits. Thieves know how to survive, know how to take what they need, know how to operate outside rules. Or you're 40 thieves, or you wear it with pride. Week 1 was breaking them. 20-mile runs in full pack. Hawaiian heat turning uniforms to sweat rags. Half couldn't finish. Collapsed at mile 15. Rob made them carry each other, made them understand units survive together or die alone. Danny Walsh carried Tommy Carson last 3 miles. Kid weighed 160, Danny weighed 200. Carried Tommy in his own pack. Crossed finish line without complaining. Set Tommy down gently. We good, sir? You're good, private. Take 5, then run it again. Week 4 was silent killing. Filipino scout named Sergeant Cruz taught techniques Marine Corps manual didn't cover. Kill sentries without noise. Break necks. Use piano wire. Approach from behind and end life in 1 second. Marcus Cooper excelled. Boxing background translated perfectly. Understood body mechanics. Leverage. Could drop a man in half second without sound. Cruz pulled Rob aside. That one's dangerous, Captain. Cooper. Got darkness inside. Uses it well, but it's there. Rob nodded. He'd seen it. Marcus fought like man escaping something. Like violence was catharsis. Keep him focused. Channel darkness toward enemy. We need dangerous men. Week 8 was theft training. Rob divided unit into 4 teams. Gave each assignment. Steal specific items without getting caught. Army Depot. Navy Warehouse. Marine Headquarters. Vinny Romano's team 1. Stole Jeep, 2 crates, grenades, 50 pounds, coffee, brigadier, general's dress uniform. All in one night. Zero detections. Other Marines started calling them 40 Thieves. Nickname spread. Stuck. Became badge of honor. Week 12 was final exercise. 72-hour survival. Teams of 4 dropped in jungle. No food. Water. Map. Navigate 30 miles while instructors played Japanese patrols. Tommy Carson's team got captured day 2, but not before Tommy set ambush catching 3 instructor patrols. Kid was 17. Fought like 30. Danny Walsh's team made it 72 hours without detection. Lived off jungle. Moved silent. Perfect. Late May, the 40 Thieves were ready, transformed from criminals into something else. Not standard Marines. Something harder, more dangerous, more capable. Rob assembled them on beach final time. Your 40 Thieves. June 15th, we land Saipan. 30,000 Japanese. You'll operate behind lines. Map positions, save lives. Some won't come home, but ones who do will have done something that matters. That's your purpose. Marcus Cooper spoke. How many die? Sir, expected casualty rate. Rob's answer was honest. Brutal. Scout snipers average 73% casualties. Almost 3/4 killed or wounded. Those are statistics. But statistics don't account for training. Don't account for you not being standard Marines. You're thieves, survivors, men who break rules and stay alive. I expect casualties, but I expect you to beat statistics because you're better. You're 40 Thieves, and thieves survive. 2 weeks later, they boarded transports. June 14th, 1944. USS Maryland. Intelligence briefing. Rob and 4 team leaders, a round table covered with photographs and maps. Danny Walsh, Marcus Cooper, Vinnie Romano, Tommy Carson. Each commanded 10-man team within larger platoon. Intelligence officers spread photographs. Images from 10,000 feet showing terrain but missing details. Saipan, 14 miles long, 5 wide. Mount Tapochau rises 1,500 feet center. Japanese observation over entire island. They see every beach, valley, approach. He pointed to marked clusters. Estimated garrison 30,000. Imperial Army, 43rd Division, Navy units, armed civilians, 6 months fortifying. Concrete pillboxes, interconnected trenches, underground bunkers, artillery in caves. He looked up. This is Japanese home territory, not occupied land. This is Japan itself. They'll defend with suicidal determination. No surrender, no retreat. Fight to last man. Colonel Bradley entered. Spoke to Rob. Your mission is straightforward. Land first wave. Push inland immediately. Don't engage unless necessary. Find Japanese positions. Radio coordinates. Stay behind lines long as possible. Days if you can. Map everything. 2nd Division going blind unless you give us eyes. He paused. Expected casualties for scout snipers average 73%. You'll likely meet or exceed that. Operating alone, deep behind enemy lines. If captured, Japanese won't take prisoners. You know what that means. Rob knew. Everyone knew. Torture, beheading, worse. But if you succeed, if you map positions before main advance, intelligence estimates 15% reduction in overall casualties. Approximately 2,000 men come home because of intelligence you provide. 2,000 brothers, 2,000 sons. That's why this matters. Rob thought about Jimmy, dead at Tarawa because intelligence was wrong. 2,000 other Jimmies who might live because 40 Thieves did their job. We'll get it done, sir. That night, Rob sat in cabin writing letters. One to Mother, one to each team leader if Rob didn't survive. One to Jimmy that would never be mailed. He wrote his dead brother about 40 Thieves, about criminals becoming heroes, about how intelligence could save lives, about how no more Marines would die going blind. He folded letter, put it in pocket, would carry it through Saipan. June 15th, 1944, 0844. Higgins' boat ramp dropped into chest-deep water. Rob led 40 Thieves forward through surf already red with blood. Japanese mortars falling. Machine gun fire kicking spray. Men dying in water. In sand. At seawall before seeing enemy. Rob reached beach 0847. Danny Walsh beside him. Marcus Cooper to right. Vinnie Romano and Tommy Carson somewhere behind through smoke and chaos. Standard Marines pinning down, taking cover, returning fire, establishing beachhead. 40 Thieves had different orders. Keep moving, push inland, find enemy, map positions, stay alive. By 0930, they'd push 300 yards inland, farther than any unit on beach. Suddenly alone, behind Japanese lines. 30,000 enemies somewhere ahead. 40 American criminals between them and brothers on beach. 10:15, Danny Walsh spotted first Japanese position. Concrete pillbox built into ridge. Type 92 heavy machine gun. 7-man crew. Position covered valley where 2nd Division would advance that afternoon. Camouflage perfect. Invisible from beach. Hundreds of Marines would walk into kill zone. Rob made decision in 5 seconds. Standard procedure said observe and report. Don't engage. But hundreds would die if pillbox remained operational. Take it out. Danny positioned team. Private Wilson carried bazooka. 80 yards from target, 1 shot. Rocket hit firing slit center. Detonated inside. Killed entire crew instantly. Before smoke cleared, 40 Thieves moved 300 yards deeper into jungle. No trace except destroyed pillbox. When 2nd Marines advanced through valley 4 hours later, they encountered no machine gun fire. Never knew why. Never knew criminals saved their lives. By noon, 40 Thieves identified 17 Japanese positions. Radioed coordinates. Naval gunfire hit targets within 20 minutes. 5-inch shells demolished fortifications. Scouts marked 30 minutes earlier. This was mission. Find enemy, mark for destruction. Move before Japanese realize what was happening. 1540, Vinnie Romano's team found something unexpected. 37 Type 97 medium tanks under camouflage netting. Intelligence estimated maybe 12 tanks total on Saipan. Vinnie found 37 in one location. Those tanks represented existential threat. Japanese doctrine called for mass night attacks. 37 tanks after dark could break marine lines, reach supply areas, turn invasion into disaster. Rob radioed coordinates. Response came 8 minutes later. No naval gunfire available. No airstrikes. No artillery for 4 hours minimum. By then dark. Tanks would move. Opportunity lost. Rob looked at map. Looked at men. 40 Thieves had 6 bazookas. 36 rockets total. 37 tanks. Mathematics almost perfect. Almost suicide. Almost impossible. But impossible was what criminals did best. He assembled 4 team leaders. Spread map on ground. 37 tanks. 6 bazookas. 36 rockets. If perfect, we disable enough to blunt attack. If not perfect, we die and accomplish nothing. But if we do nothing, those tanks hit beach tonight and 2,000 Marines die. Marcus understood immediately. Expression unchanged, but something flickered behind eyes. This was why criminals made better scouts. Criminals understood risk differently. Danny checked ammunition. Methodical. 6 shots per bazooka means 6 kills if perfect. Leaves 31 tanks. Then it gets creative. Tommy Carson spoke. 17 years old. Should be scared. Looked eager. 37 tanks. 40 Thieves. Our kind of odds, sir. Vinnie laughed. Sharp. Genuine. Kid's got point. Didn't come 8,000 miles to play safe. Rob looked at his criminals. His thieves. His Marines. 40 men who proved worst could become best when properly motivated. We attack 1625. 30 minutes to position. Fire all 6 simultaneously. Maximum confusion. Then disappear before they respond. Marcus had one question. What if they respond before we disappear? Sir Rob's answer was honest. What these men deserved. Then we fight our way out or die trying. Either way, those tanks don't reach beach tonight. Either way, we save lives. Either way, we matter. That good enough? 40 criminals nodded. Ready to do impossible. Ready to prove sometimes worst Marines make best heroes. 40 Thieves moved toward tank battalion. 30 minutes until contact. 30 minutes until they proved criminals could change history. 1625 hours, June 15th, 1944. 6 Marines positioned themselves in semicircle around 37 Japanese tanks hidden under camouflage netting 2 miles inland from the beach. Each Marine carried a bazooka loaded with a single rocket, 1 shot to kill 1 tank. After that, the mathematics got complicated. After that, 36 rockets versus 37 tanks meant someone was getting creative. And the 40 thieves specialized in creative violence. Rob Mitchell positioned his 6 bazooka teams 40 yards apart for maximum coverage, overlapping fire zones. Each team consisted of shooter plus loader. The plan was simple in theory, devastating in execution if everything worked perfectly. Fire all 6 bazookas simultaneously at 16:30. Target tanks on the perimeter first. Create maximum confusion among Japanese crews. Withdraw before infantry could respond and coordinate counterattack. They disable 6 tanks, maybe 8 if panic spread, and some crews abandoned vehicles. The remaining 29 would still be combat effective, but 29 tanks were better than 37, and disabled tanks blocking paths would slow any advance toward the beach. The mathematics didn't favor survival, but mathematics rarely did in war, and criminals had learned long ago that survival meant ignoring mathematics and trusting instinct. Private Wilson settled into firing position behind a fallen palm trunk, his target selected. Range calculated, finger resting light on trigger. Danny Walsh crouched beside him as loader. Second rocket ready if Wilson got opportunity for follow-up shot. Unlikely but possible if chaos was sufficient. Behind them, Marcus Cooper covered their withdrawal route. Vinny Romano and Tommy Carson were positioned with their own teams 40 yards to the left and right. 6 teams, 6 targets. 30 seconds of violence, then disappear into jungle before Japanese could coordinate response. 16:27, 2 minutes before attack. Danny Walsh was adjusting his grip on the bazooka when something changed, something fundamental, something that transformed tactical situation from dangerous to impossible. The Japanese tanks started their engines, all 37, simultaneously. The sound was massive, overwhelming. Diesel engines roaring to life in perfect coordination. Not maintenance checks, not repositioning. This was combat preparation. This was deployment sequence. Rob watched through binoculars as Japanese tank crews emerged from camouflage dugouts scattered around the grove. Officers shouted orders in Japanese. Infantry units began forming up around the armor. Approximately 1,000 soldiers total. This wasn't drill or routine movement. This was preparation for major assault. The entire enemy force was now alert, organizing, combat ready. The window for surprise attack had closed like steel trap. Rob checked his watch. 16:28. Sunset at 19:12. Over 2 hours away. Japanese were preparing for dusk assault. Earlier than Marine intelligence predicted. Earlier than anyone expected. And that meant 2nd Marine Division at the beach would have almost no time to prepare defensive positions before armor hit their lines. He keyed his radio, spoke to all teams simultaneously using lowest possible transmission power. Just enough for his scattered teams to receive. Abort attack. I say again, abort. New mission. Shadow the battalion. Report movements. Stay concealed. He could hear the protest in Danny Walsh's voice, even through radio static. The kid wanted to fight, wanted to hit those tanks, wanted to do something besides watch. Captain, we can still take 6 tanks, maybe 8, better than nothing. Rob understood the impulse, understood the frustration of being so close to enemy and not striking. But tactics weren't about wanting. Tactics were about effectiveness, about maximizing impact, about understanding when striking would accomplish mission and when striking would just get you killed for nothing. 6 tanks won't stop this assault, but knowing where they're going and when might save the beach. We follow, we report, we let Marines prepare. That's worth more than 6 dead tanks. Marcus Cooper's voice came through next, calmer. Understanding the strategic calculation even if instinct wanted violence. He's right, we attack now, and accomplish nothing. We shadow them, we give 2nd Marines time to set up defense, worth more than 6 kills. Rob radioed headquarters with updated information. Enemy tank battalion mobilizing. Estimated strength, 37 tanks plus 1,000 infantry. Preparing for attack. Estimated departure, 1,700 hours. Will maintain observation and report developments. Response came immediately. Continue observation, do not engage, report all movements. The Japanese tank battalion began moving at 17:07, 2 columns, parallel routes toward coast. infantry alongside armor. This was major assault, not probing attack, not reconnaissance in force. This was attempt to break through Marine lines and reach the beaches before nightfall. If they succeeded, they could destroy supply dumps, overrun artillery positions, hit command posts. The entire invasion could collapse in single evening. The 40 thieves followed, staying 200 yards to flank, using jungle cover for concealment. Every 10 minutes, Rob radioed updated coordinates showing enemy position and direction of movement. Marine units at beach began repositioning to meet threat. Bazookas distributed to frontline companies. Sherman tanks from 2nd Marine Tank Battalion moved forward. Artillery batteries adjusted aim points. The entire division prepared to receive massed armor attack. 1815, approximately 1 mile from beach. The Japanese formation halted. Officers gathered for conference. Rob observed through binoculars from 300 yards away. The Japanese were arguing about something. One officer pointed toward coast. Another gestured north. Third officer unrolled map across tank hull. The conference lasted 11 minutes. Voices rising, disagreement clear, even without understanding Japanese. Finally, the officers returned to their units, and the formation changed direction. Instead of continuing straight toward beach, the tanks turned north. The maneuver surprised Rob. Marine intelligence maps showed no valuable targets in that direction. Area was mostly jungle and broken terrain, but the Japanese clearly had specific objective. The formation advanced another mile north, then turned west again toward coast. By 1905, as sun touched horizon, Rob understood their plan. The Japanese weren't attacking main beachhead. They were targeting the gap between 2nd Marine Division and 4th Marine Division. A successful breakthrough there would split American forces in half, would create chaos in command structure, would potentially allow Japanese forces to roll up both divisions from the flank. It was brilliant tactical thinking, and it would have worked perfectly if the 40 thieves hadn't been shadowing them, hadn't been reporting positions, hadn't given Marine commanders time to recognize the threat and reposition forces. Rob radioed warning, but Japanese had chosen timing perfectly. Dusk was falling. Radio communication became difficult as Marine units shifted frequencies for night operations. Artillery batteries were in middle of ammunition resupply. Sherman tanks were refueling. The gap between divisions was defended by just 2 Marine companies, approximately 340 men against 37 tanks and 1,000 Japanese infantry. The mathematics were brutal. 1923. The Japanese attack began. The 40 thieves watched from elevated ground as enemy tanks rolled forward through twilight. Marine defensive positions erupted with bazooka fire. First 3 Japanese tanks exploded in flames. Secondary explosions as ammunition cooked off. But 34 more kept coming. Japanese infantry charged behind armor, screaming, firing. Marines fell back from initial positions. The Japanese breakthrough was succeeding. Within 15 minutes, enemy tanks would reach the beach, would overrun supply areas, would destroy everything 2nd Marine Division needed to continue fighting. Rob looked at his 6 bazookas and 34 remaining tanks. Then he saw something that changed everything. One Type 97 tank had separated from main formation, was heading directly towards 6th Marine Regiment Command Post, where Colonel Bradley coordinated entire divisional response. The tank moved through darkness at approximately 15 miles per hour, following ravine that led straight to CP location. Japanese tank commander had identified weakness in Marine defenses, a 200-yard gap where jungle terrain prevented easy positioning of anti-tank weapons. If that tank reached command post, it could destroy radio equipment, kill senior officers including Bradley, paralyze entire regimental response to main attack, and nobody at the CP knew it was coming. Colonel Bradley and his staff were 400 yards away, completely unaware of approaching threat. Rob looked at Danny Walsh. The Wyoming kid was already moving without waiting for orders. Grabbed Private Wilson, who carried bazooka, started running downhill toward intercept position. Rob and Marcus followed. Tommy Carson and Vinny Romano stayed with their teams, maintaining observation on main tank force. Someone had to keep reporting enemy movements, even if rest of platoon was compromised. The 4 Marines raced downhill trying to reach position before tank emerged from ravine. Rob's lungs burned, legs screamed protest. They weren't trained for sustained sprints, were trained for endurance, for patience. for long, slow movements through hostile territory. But sometimes mission required speed over stealth, required getting to right place even if getting there revealed your presence. They reached position 30 yards from ravine exit at 1931. Wilson dropped prone behind fallen log, aimed bazooka at point where tank would emerge. Danny loaded rocket with practiced efficiency. Rob and Marcus provided security, covering flanks, watching for Japanese infantry who might be following the tank. The Type 97 emerged from ravine 20 seconds later, turret rotating, searching for targets. Commander stood in open hatch, scanning with binoculars, looking for command post, looking for radio antennas, looking for anything that indicated location of American headquarters. Wilson waited, patient, professional. Moving tank was harder to hit than stationary one. He needed perfect moment, needed tank to stop. The tank continued forward, 25 yards, 20, 15, then stopped. Engine idling, commander checking map, confirming position before final approach. Wilson fired at 1932. The rocket hit tank's left side just below turret ring, exactly where armor was thinnest. Shape charge penetrated, detonated inside crew compartment, killed all 4 crew members instantly. Tank's ammunition cooked off 6 seconds later. Entire vehicle erupted in flames. Fireball lit jungle for 300 yards in every direction. Explosion visible from beach, audible for half-mile. Every Japanese soldier within 500 yards saw it. New Americans were operating behind lines. But more importantly, Japanese infantry advancing nearby saw explosion. Assumed they'd encountered major Marine defensive position. Something big, something dangerous, something that could destroy tanks. They redirected assault away from command post, toward what they thought was larger threat. Rob's bazooka shot had accomplished 2 things. Destroyed tank heading for Bradley's CP, inadvertently misdirected Japanese infantry battalion away from most vulnerable point in Marine defenses. The command post remained secure. Bradley continued coordinating divisional response without interruption. But the muzzle flash had revealed 40 Thieves' position to every Japanese soldier within visual range. Machine gun fire began raking area where they'd fired from. Mortar rounds started falling. The platoon had to withdraw immediately or risk being overrun by enemy infantry converging on their location. The withdrawal through jungle and darkness, while under fire, tested everything the 40 Thieves had trained for. Standard procedure called for units to stay together, move as group, maintain formation. But jungle terrain and enemy fire made that impossible. The platoon split, 4 teams of 10, each moving independently toward predetermined rally points. This was doctrine Rob had drilled during training. If separated, make for rally point Alpha. Wait 2 hours. If no contact, move to rally point Bravo. Behind them, Japanese voices shouted commands. Whistles blew signal patterns. Flashlights swept through undergrowth, searching for the Americans who'd destroyed their tank. Rob's team moved west, using darkness and vegetation for concealment. 6 men following him. Marcus Cooper, Danny Walsh, Private Wilson, 3 others. Behind them, the sounds of pursuit grew fainter. Japanese were searching, but searching wrong area, assuming Americans would flee toward beach, toward safety, toward their own lines. Rob had led his team laterally, parallel to front, staying behind Japanese positions. Counterintuitive movement that confused pursuers. They reached Rally Point Alpha at 1805, started counting arrivals as other teams filtered in through darkness. Danny Walsh's team arrived first. 7 men present, 3 missing. Marcus Cooper's team came next. 6 men, 4 missing. Tommy Carson's team, 15 minutes later. 8 men, 2 missing. Vinny Romano's team arrived last. 5 men present, 5 missing somewhere in the jungle night. Total present at rally point 26 men, 17 missing. Some dead, some wounded. Some simply lost in chaos of night combat behind enemy lines. Rob waited. Procedure said wait 2 hours for stragglers. Let missing men find rally point. But location was too close to Japanese positions. Enemy patrols were actively searching area. Staying 2 hours meant certain contact, certain combat, against superior numbers in darkness on terrain that favored defenders. He made decision at 1823. Move assembled group to Marine lines now. Send small rescue teams at dawn to search for missing men. Risk losing 17 to save 26 was bad mathematics, but losing all 43 was worse. The group moved south, toward friendly positions, approaching carefully because night sentries shot at anything moving. Assumed everything in darkness was Japanese until proven otherwise. Standard procedure that saved lives but sometimes killed friends. Rob used prearranged recognition signal when they got close. 3 short whistles. Too long. Marine sentries challenged. Rob responded with correct password. The 40 thieves crossed into American-held territory at 1941. 26 men had made it back. 17 remained out there, in darkness, behind enemy lines. Some were dead, some were wounded, some were simply lost, waiting for dawn to navigate back. But all 17 were Rob's responsibility. All 17 were men he'd recruited from Briggs, men he'd promised purpose and meaning, men who'd trusted him enough to follow him into hell. Meanwhile, the Japanese tank attack continued through night. Marine defensive positions reported enemy armor probing lines until 0314. American bazookas destroyed 11 tanks. Sherman tanks knocked out 9 more. Artillery fire disabled 7. By dawn, the Japanese had lost 27 of their 37 tanks. The attack had failed. Gap between divisions held. But cost was heavy. 2nd Battalion 6th Marines reported 78 casualties. Company F 2nd Marines had 19 killed or wounded. The 40 thieves had done their job. Found tanks, reported position, saved command post. Given Marines time to prepare. But 17 men were still missing. And the math of that loss sat heavy on Rob's chest like physical weight. Dawn, June 16th, 0615. Rob assembled search teams. 4 teams, 4 men each. Order simple. Locate missing 17 Marines, return by noon. Teams moved back into jungle at 0630, retracing previous night's route. Looking for bodies, looking for survivors, looking for anything that would tell them what happened to their brothers. First team found body at 0705. Private Donald Harper, shot twice in chest, probably during withdrawal under fire. Died instantly or close enough that difference didn't matter. Dog tags missing. Japanese collected American identification as trophies. Proof of kills, something to show officers. Team buried Harper in shallow grave. Marked location with his rifle stuck in ground. Helmet balanced on top. Continued searching. Second team found 3 bodies at 0820. These Marines had been captured alive. Hands tied behind backs with their own bootlaces. Bayoneted multiple times. Japanese forces on Saipan rarely took prisoners. Imperial Army considered surrender dishonorable. Extended that contempt to captured enemies. But these 3 Marines hadn't surrendered. They'd been wounded, captured while unconscious or too injured to resist, then murdered while helpless, executed for being on wrong side of war. Team radioed discovery to Rob. He ordered them to continue searching for remaining 13. Hoped some were alive. Hoped some had successfully evaded. Hoped Japanese hadn't found them all. By 1000 hours, search teams had located 6 missing Marines alive. They'd become separated during night withdrawal, successfully evaded Japanese patrols through combination of luck and training, reached Marine lines at different locations overnight. Word hadn't reached Rob yet because communication systems were still recovering from chaos of night battle. Count updated 29 men accounted for, 13 still missing. At 11:15, one search team made radio contact. Excited, urgent. They'd found 5 Marines hiding in cave system approximately 1 mile behind Japanese lines. The 5 were alive but pinned down. Japanese patrols were actively searching the area. The trapped Marines couldn't move without being detected, couldn't call for help without revealing position, couldn't do anything except hide and hope. Rob faced decision that would haunt him. He could request artillery support to create diversion, shell Japanese positions near cave, force enemy to take cover, allow trapped Marines to escape during chaos. But artillery fire would alert Japanese to American interest in that specific location, would increase patrols, would make area too hot for any future reconnaissance operations. Or he could send rescue team immediately. Rely on stealth and speed, extract men before Japanese realize what was happening. Faster but riskier, more likely to result in contact. more likely to cost additional lives trying to save 5. Rob chose speed. Every minute those 5 Marines remained trapped was minute closer to discovery, minute closer to capture and execution like the 3 found with hands tied. He assembled 6-man rescue team: Danny Walsh, Marcus Cooper, Vinnie Romano, Tommy Carson, 2 others whose names would matter more later when everything went wrong. They moved out at 11:47. Rescue team reached cave system at 12:33. 5 trapped Marines were exhausted, dehydrated. 1 had malaria running fever of 103, shaking with chills despite tropical heat. Another had dysentery, could barely walk, needed immediate medical attention or he'd die from dehydration within 24 hours. The extraction required covering 1 mile through Japanese-controlled territory in daylight with 2 Marines who couldn't move fast. Standard tactics called for moving at night, waiting for darkness. But fever case couldn't survive another 12 hours. Dysentery case was marginal. They needed extraction now. Rob decided to move immediately. Speed over concealment. Risk contact to save lives. Combined group of 11 Marines began moving at 13:05. Made it 400 yards before encountering Japanese patrol. 20 enemy soldiers in standard search formation. Methodical. Professional. Searching systematically for the Americans they knew were operating in their rear areas. Rob had 2 choices: hide and hope patrol passed without detecting them, or ambush. Eliminate the threat before it could report contact. Hiding risked discovery. 2 sick Marines couldn't stay quiet if patrol got close. Coughing, groaning, fever-induced delirium. Ambushing risked bringing more Japanese to investigate gunfire. But if they could eliminate entire patrol in seconds before anyone could radio for help, they might escape undetected. Might make it back to lines before enemy realized what happened. Rob chose ambush, speed, violence. Overwhelming force applied instantly. Marines positioned in L-shaped formation. 8 men along patrol's projected line of march. 3 at end of L to catch any who tried to escape. Overlapping fields of fire. No gaps, no mercy. Japanese walked into kill zone at 13:23. Rob gave signal. 11 Marines opened fire simultaneously. Japanese patrol destroyed in 7 seconds. 20 enemy dead before most even understood they were under attack. No survivors, no radio transmissions. But gunfire had been heard for half-mile in every direction. Every Japanese unit within audible range would be converging. The Marines had maybe 5 minutes before being surrounded. They ran, full sprint, carrying 2 sick men between them, abandoning stealth entirely for speed. Behind them, Japanese voices shouted commands. Whistles blew coordination signals. The sound of enemy forces mobilizing echoed through jungle canopy. At 13:29, terrain dropped into steep ravine, 40 feet deep, nearly vertical sides. Going around added 15 minutes to route. Going down and climbing up other sides slowed them significantly. But staying on ridge meant certain contact with pursuing Japanese infantry. Rob chose ravine. Marines descended, half sliding, half climbing, supporting 2 sick men who couldn't manage on their own. Reached bottom at 13:33. Japanese appeared on ridge above 60 seconds later. Opened fire from elevated positions, shooting down into ravine at trapped Americans. Bullets ricocheted off rocks. Grenade exploded on ravine floor. 1 Marine hit in leg, another took shrapnel from grenade fragments. Marines returned fire while continuing to move, using boulders and vegetation for partial cover. But ravine channeled them, eliminated tactical options. They could only move forward. Hoped to reach far end before Japanese descended and engaged at close range where superior numbers would overwhelm them. At 13:38, they spotted the problem. Ravine ended in box canyon, solid rock walls on 3 sides, no exit. Japanese began descending from multiple points, moving to surround the trapped Americans. Rob counted 40 enemy visible with more arriving every minute. His 11 Marines had maybe 200 rounds total ammunition between them. 2 couldn't fight effectively. That left 9 combat-capable men against 40-plus enemy with reinforcements coming. Artillery support impossible. Marines were too close to Japanese positions. Any fire mission risked hitting friendlies. Airstrikes couldn't be called without knowing exact positions. The 40 thieves were on their own. Then Vinny Romano noticed something the Japanese had missed. Box Canyon's rear wall wasn't completely solid. Vegetation growing at base suggested water seepage. Underground, spring or stream, which meant crack, fissure, maybe passage through rock. He sent Tommy Carson and Danny Walsh to investigate. They reported back at 1344. Narrow opening behind the vegetation, barely wide enough for man to squeeze through sideways. Beyond opening, passage widened slightly, appeared to lead upward through rock formation. Marines began moving through one at a time, pushing sick men through first, removing packs to fit, dragging equipment behind. Passage was completely dark. They moved by touch, following man ahead, feeling their way through stone corridor carved by water over centuries. Passage climbed steeply, twisted, narrowed in places where men had to exhale completely to squeeze through. Marcus Cooper struggled. Claustrophobia from childhood mine disaster surfacing. Memories of father dying trapped under rock. But he pushed through, controlled breathing, focused on Tommy ahead of him. Didn't think about tons of stone overhead. Didn't think about passage collapsing. Didn't think about dying buried alive in darkness. Passage emerged on opposite side of ridge at 1407, 400 yards from where they'd entered. Marines found themselves behind Japanese lines again, but enemy was focused on searching ravine below. Hadn't realized Americans had escaped through stone. They moved quickly toward Marine positions, covered final 600 yards in 8 minutes, approached using recognition signals, crossed into American-held territory at 1423. All 11 Marines reached safety, 5 rescued, 6 rescuers, no additional losses. Count updated, 34 men accounted for, 8 still missing somewhere in jungle. Over rest of day, 3 more were found alive, having evaded independently through skill or luck, or combination of both. Reached Marine lines through different routes. 2 more bodies discovered by advancing Marine units. That left 3 Marines unaccounted for. Listed as missing in action, presumed dead but bodies not recovered. Maybe killed and not found. Maybe captured and executed. Maybe still alive somewhere, hoping for rescue that wouldn't come. Final count, June 16th evening, 6 confirmed killed, 3 missing, presumed dead, 9 wounded seriously enough to require medical evacuation. 22% casualties in first 48 hours. The 40 thieves had lost nearly a quarter of their strength, but they'd accomplished what Marine Corps said was impossible. They'd operated 2 miles behind enemy lines, saved command posts from tank attack, rescued trapped Marines from cave, provided intelligence that reduced casualties across entire division. And tomorrow they'd go even deeper into Japanese territory, because intelligence had identified artillery positions hidden in extensive cave systems on Central Ridge, positions that had been shelling Marine lines for 2 days, killing men, disrupting supplies. And only ground reconnaissance could find them. Only infiltration could map the tunnel networks. Only the 40 thieves could do what needed doing. But this mission would cost Marcus Cooper his life, would teach Rob Mitchell that some victories aren't worth their price, would create wound that wouldn't heal for 66 years. June 17th, 1944, 0530, the 37 surviving thieves moved out from Marine lines in complete darkness. New mission: penetrate 3 miles inland, find Japanese artillery positions hidden in caves. Intelligence believed guns were positioned in ridge system overlooking Marine advance routes. Those artillery pieces had been shelling American positions for 2 days, killing Marines, disrupting supply operations, creating chaos in rear areas. Aerial reconnaissance couldn't locate them. Japanese had camouflaged cave entrances too well. Only ground reconnaissance could find them. Only infiltration could map the tunnel systems. Only eyes on the ground could give Marines what they needed to destroy those positions. The platoon moved in complete silence, hand signals for communication. No verbal orders, no radio transmissions unless absolutely necessary. They covered first mile in 47 minutes without encountering Japanese patrols. Second mile took longer. Terrain became increasingly difficult. Steep slopes, dense vegetation, rocky ground that made silent movement nearly impossible. They reached target ridge system at 0815. Started systematic reconnaissance of area intelligence had identified as likely artillery positions. Ridge stretched approximately 2 miles. Rose 600 feet above surrounding jungle. Japanese positions were everywhere. Rob counted 8 cave entrances large enough to hide artillery pieces. Caves were connected by tunnels allowing Japanese to move guns between positions, fire several rounds from one location, relocate before American counter-battery fire could respond. This explained why Marine artillery had failed to destroy enemy guns. They were shooting at positions Japanese had already abandoned. Finding guns was half the mission. Mapping tunnel system was other half. Marine assault units needed to know how to attack when they reached this area, needed to understand how caves connected, where entrances were, where Japanese stored ammunition, how many soldiers defended positions. Mapping required entering the tunnels, required moving through darkness with enemy all around, required risk that made every previous mission look cautious by comparison. Marcus Cooper and Danny Walsh volunteered at 0940. They'd penetrate cave system while rest of platoon provided security outside. 2 men going into darkness, into confined spaces, into Marcus's nightmare made real. But he volunteered anyway because mission required it, because Marines needed intelligence, because facing fear was what warriors did even when fear was justified. The 2 Marines entered largest cave opening, moving into darkness with small flashlights shielded to prevent light from being visible more than few feet away. Cave extended 200 feet into ridge before branching into multiple passages. They could hear Japanese voices echoing from somewhere deeper in system. Water dripped from ceiling. Air smelled of gunpowder and human waste, and something else. Something organic and wrong. Death maybe, or just concentrated human habitation in enclosed space. They found first artillery piece at 1012. Type 91 105mm howitzer positioned 30 feet inside side passage. Ammunition stored in recesses carved into rock walls. Shell casings scattered on floor. Gun crew was absent, probably sleeping in different section of cave system. Japanese work shifts, some manning guns, some sleeping, some on patrol. Efficient use of limited manpower. Marcus and Danny marked location on their map, continued deeper into system, discovered 2 more guns in next 40 minutes, plus command posts with maps showing defensive positions across entire island, plus ammunition magazine containing approximately 2,000 rounds of various calibers, plus sleeping quarters for at least 60 soldiers. Tunnel system was far more extensive than intelligence had estimated. This wasn't simple artillery position. This was underground fortress. At 11:03, they heard Japanese soldiers approaching, voices getting louder, multiple men, maybe dozen. Marcus and Danny had maybe 15 seconds to find concealment before being discovered. They pressed themselves into small alcove, natural depression in rock wall, barely large enough for 2 men standing absolutely still. Remained motionless as 12 enemy soldiers walked past, conversing in Japanese, laughing about something, passing within 3 feet of Americans they couldn't see in darkness. Marcus's heart hammered against his ribs, breathing shallow, controlled. The walls pressed close, ceiling low overhead, tons of stones surrounding them, trapping them, just like mine collapse that killed his father, just like nightmare he'd lived with for 14 years. But he didn't move, didn't panic, just stood there in darkness with Danny beside him while enemy walked past discussing things neither American could understand. After patrol moved on, the 2 Marines decided to exit. They gathered enough intelligence. Staying longer risked capture or discovery or tunnel system collapsing because nothing felt stable. They emerged at 11:27. Rejoined platoon. Rob examined their map. Tunnel system connected all 8 cave entrances, contained at least 6 artillery pieces, possibly more. Standard Marine assault tactics would fail against this position. Infantry couldn't storm caves. Machine guns covered every entrance. Artillery fire would be ineffective. Caves were too deep. Shells would have to score direct hit on entrance to penetrate far enough to damage anything important. Only solution was seal entrances. Trap Japanese inside, then systematically destroy each sealed position with demolitions. But that required Marine engineers with explosives. Those units were still days away from reaching this sector. For now, the artillery would continue firing, continue killing Marines, continued disrupting operations. All the 40 thieves could do was report positions and hope someone figured out how to deal with problem. But Rob had secondary objective, town of Garapan, Saipan's administrative capital before war. Marine intelligence wanted to know if Japanese were defending town in its fortified position or using it as staging area. Reaching Garapan required crossing 4 miles of enemy territory in daylight, but 40 thieves had successfully operated undetected for over 30 hours. Rob believed they could complete one more reconnaissance before withdrawing to Marine lines. They approached Garapan from east at 1540. Town had been heavily bombed by American aircraft, shelled by naval gunfire. Most buildings were destroyed or severely damaged, but Rob could see Japanese soldiers moving through ruins. Enemy maintained significant presence. He needed closer reconnaissance, needed to determine enemy strength and dispositions, needed to know what 2nd Division would face when they eventually assaulted the town. Getting close to Garapan in daylight was suicide. Any movement would be spotted. Any approach would be detected. Standard reconnaissance doctrine said wait for darkness. Observe from distance. Don't risk close approach in broad daylight. But waiting for darkness meant another 12 hours. Another 12 hours of artillery fire from caves. Another 12 hours of Marines dying. Rob needed intelligence now. Needed to make every hour count. Needed to take risks that would make headquarters question his sanity. At 16:05, Rob made decision that would become legendary in Marine Corps history. 5 Marines would enter Garapan, conduct close reconnaissance, return with detailed intelligence. In broad daylight, walking through enemy capital like they owned it. The mission violated every tactical principle, every doctrine, every reasonable standard of operational security. But 40 thieves specialized in violating principles, specialized in making impossible look routine. Rob selected 4 Marines to accompany him. Danny Walsh, Vinnie Romano, Tommy Carson, plus Corporal James Henderson, who spoke some Japanese from missionary parents who'd worked in Japan before war. 5 men who would walk into hell and map it while devils watched. Marcus Cooper would command security element outside town. 28 Marines positioned in jungle, ready to provide covering fire if bicycle team needed emergency extraction. They removed equipment that made noise. Canteens, extra ammunition, grenades, anything that would rattle or clank or give them away. Carried only rifles, knives, sidearms, moved toward Garapan's eastern edge at 1623. Ruins provided excellent cover but also concealed Japanese positions. Every destroyed building could hide enemy soldiers. Every pile of rubble could be defensive position. Every shadow could be death waiting. They entered town at 1641, moving through back streets, staying in shadows where possible, but not hiding, not sneaking, just moving purposefully like soldiers with somewhere to be. Japanese soldiers were everywhere. Rob counted at least 200 visible in town center, probably hundreds more in surrounding buildings. Japanese weren't defending Garapan as fortified position. They were using it as staging area for counterattacks, for moving reinforcements, for coordinating defensive operations. The distinction mattered. Marine commanders planning assault needed to know they'd face mobile units rather than fixed fortifications. At 1708, Vinnie Romano spotted something that changed everything. 5 bicycles leaning against partially destroyed building. Japanese military bicycles. Type officers used for transportation between positions. Standard issue equipment. Nothing special except they represented opportunity, audacity, the kind of crazy idea that either saved lives or got everyone killed. Vinnie looked at Rob. Rob looked at the bicycles. 5 bicycles, 5 Marines. The idea formed without words, without discussion, just instant understanding between criminals who'd learned to think outside doctrine. They could conduct reconnaissance while riding through town, like Japanese soldiers moving between positions. In chaos and destruction of Garapan, 5 men on bicycles would attract less attention than 5 men trying to hide, would look like they belonged, would exploit human tendency to see what they expected to see. Rob approved with single nod. The plan violated standard reconnaissance procedures, violated common sense, violated every instinct that said stay hidden and survive. But standard procedures hadn't won this war yet. Common sense didn't account for criminals turned Marines. An instinct sometimes needed to be ignored in favor of audacity. The 5 Marines took bicycles, began riding at 17:15, casually, not trying to hide, not sneaking, just 5 soldiers on bicycles navigating through destroyed town, moving between defensive positions, checking on units, whatever Japanese officers did when riding around capital. They rode through streets, past guard posts, past supply dumps, past soldiers who glanced at them and looked away. 5 men on bicycles equaled 5 Japanese soldiers in unconscious calculation every enemy made. No reason to question. No reason to investigate. Human brain took shortcuts. Assumed familiarity meant friendship. For 43 minutes they rode, through Garapan, mapping every position, counting troops, identifying supply locations, noting where defenses were concentrated and where they were weak. They passed within yards of Japanese officers who never suspected, never questioned, never realized 5 Americans were conducting reconnaissance under their noses. At 17:34, Japanese patrol passed them on street. 8 enemy soldiers, walking, armed, alert. One said something in Japanese. Tone sounded like question or greeting. Vinny waved, casual gesture. Keep moving gesture, universal language of busy soldiers who didn't have time for conversation. The soldier laughed, said something else. Patrol kept walking. Didn't investigate, didn't stop. Just continued on their way while 5 American criminals mapped their capital. At 17:47, they rode past Japanese major standing outside building studying map. He glanced up as bicycles approached, made eye contact with Rob for 3 seconds that felt like hours. Rob maintained calm expression. No fear, no panic, just soldier heading somewhere. Doing well, looking busy and purposeful. The major nodded once, looked back at his map, dismissed them as irrelevant, as soldiers who weren't his problem, as men who belonged because men on bicycles always belonged. Rob kept pedaling, didn't look back, didn't speed up, maintained same casual pace that said nothing unusual was happening. They completed reconnaissance at 17:58, had everything they needed, full map of Japanese positions throughout Garapan, troop concentrations, officer locations, supply dumps, ammunition storage, weak points and strong points. Everything 2nd Marines would need when they eventually assaulted town. Rob made signal, time to leave. They rode toward northern exit, away from town center, toward jungle, picked up speed gradually. Not panicked at flight, just men finishing task and heading to next assignment, maintaining cover until the end. They exited Garapan at 17:58, continued riding another mile before abandoning bicycles and moving into jungle. Behind them, Japanese forces in capital continued normal operations, completely unaware that 5 Americans had just mapped their entire defensive network, completely unaware that audacious reconnaissance would allow Marines to assault with perfect intelligence, to know exactly where enemy was concentrated, where to hit, where to avoid, which positions to destroy with artillery before sending infantry forward. Intelligence value was incalculable. When Marines attacked Garapan on June 21st, they had exact coordinates for every Japanese position. Artillery fire destroyed enemy guns before assault began. Infantry knew where defenders were strong and where they were weak. The assault succeeded with minimal casualties because Rob Mitchell and 4 criminals had ridden bicycles through enemy capital and mapped everything. Because audacity sometimes worked when caution failed. Because criminals understood that rules existed to be broken when breaking them saved lives. But while Rob and his team were inside Garapan conducting legendary reconnaissance, something happened outside that would haunt him forever. Marcus Cooper made a decision that would cost him everything, would prove that loyalty could be liability, that brotherhood could be weakness, that sometimes trying to save lives got you killed. At 17:23, while Rob was mapping Garapan, Marcus received radio transmission. Not from Rob, from Marine Unit 3 miles south. They'd captured Japanese soldier during patrol. Under interrogation, prisoner revealed that 3 American Marines were being held in cave system near Mount Tapachau. Scheduled execution at dawn tomorrow. The 3 were from 40 Thieves. Men missing since June 15th, presumed dead, but they were alive for another 12 hours. Marcus faced impossible choice. Rob was inside Garapan. Couldn't be contacted without compromising mission. Bicycle reconnaissance would take at least another hour. By then it would be 1900 hours. Nearly dark. Cave rescue at night was impossible. Too dangerous. Too many variables. Too many ways for everything to go wrong. But waiting until tomorrow meant 3 Marines would be executed at dawn. Zero chance of rescue. Zero chance of survival. Marcus had maybe 3 hours of daylight, just enough time to reach cave. Attempt extraction, return before darkness made movement impossible. He made decision that went against everything Rob had taught. Against doctrine, against orders, against mission focus. He'd rescue them. Because they were thieves, because leaving men behind wasn't acceptable. Because his father had died in mine collapse while other miners stood outside doing nothing. Marcus wouldn't make that mistake. Wouldn't stand outside while brothers died inside. He took 12 Marines, left 16 with standing orders. If Rob returned before Marcus did, wait here. If Marcus didn't return by 2200, assume he was dead. They moved fast, covered 3 miles in 47 minutes, reached cave system at 1814, found entrance guards, 2 Japanese soldiers. Marcus and Danny killed them silently. Piano wire. No sound, no alert. They entered cave, moved through darkness toward where prisoner said Americans were held, found 3 Marines in side chamber, hands tied, beaten but alive, cut them free, started exit. That's when Japanese traps sprung. They'd known about capture of their soldier, known he'd talk under interrogation, set up ambush, waited for Americans to attempt rescue. Machine gun fire erupted from darkness. Marcus's team caught in tunnel, no cover, no escape route, no tactical options except forward or back, both directions covered by Japanese weapons. Marcus made final decision, last choice he'd ever make, charged forward, drew fire, allowed others to escape behind him, attacking into machine gun emplacement with just rifle and rage and refusal to let more men die. He went down in darkness. 12 rounds, chest and abdomen, died before hitting stone floor. His sacrifice allowed 11 Marines to escape, 3 prisoners freed, 8 rescuers survived. But Marcus Cooper, 26 years old, Kentucky coal miner's son who'd overcome fear of confined spaces to save others, dead in tunnel darkness, in cave, surrounded by rock. His nightmare come true. His father's death repeated. The fear he'd fought his entire adult life claiming him in the end. By time Rob returned from Garapan at 1832, Marcus was gone, dead in cave trying to save 3 Marines who weren't worth 1 life, much less 13. Because cave had been trap. 3 prisoners had been bait. And in war, bait sometimes works. Sometimes loyalty becomes weapon enemy uses against you. Sometimes brotherhood makes you stupid enough to die for temporary victory. Rob stood looking at Danny Walsh, who delivered the news. Stood there processing information that didn't make sense. Couldn't make sense. Marcus was best fighter in the platoon. Best warrior, most dangerous man in any room. How could he be dead? How could 26-year-old boxer from Kentucky who'd survived everything be gone? Danny's answer was quiet, professional, but underneath it hearing the guilt of survivor who'd made it out when Marcus didn't. Cave was ambushed, sir. Japanese knew we'd come. Marcus went first, drew fire, gave us time to extract prisoners and get out. He saved 11 lives. Cost was his own. Rob's next question came out hollow, already knowing answer but needing to hear it said. The 3 rescued Marines, where are they? Danny's expression changed. Something worse coming. Recaptured this morning, sir. Japanese patrol found them 2 miles from cave. All 3 were executed, beheaded, bodies left as warning. Rob stood very still, processing. Marcus had died rescuing 3 Marines. Those 3 were now dead anyway. Marcus's sacrifice had purchased nothing. 12 hours of life for 3 men who were always going to die. Zero gain, only loss. Mathematics of tragedy that would haunt Rob for 66 years. June 18th through July 9th. 3 more weeks of operations. 40 thieves continued running missions every day. Sometimes multiple missions, mapping positions, calling artillery strikes, providing intelligence that saved lives across entire 2nd Marine Division. But costs kept mounting. Tommy Carson got malaria, fever reaching 106. Hallucinating at end, calling for mother he'd run away from, died July 6, 17 years old, lied about age to fight, proved himself warrior, died of disease that didn't care about courage. Danny Walsh took shrapnel from grenade, 14 pieces embedded in left leg, refused evacuation, said he could still shoot, still scout, still fight, stayed with platoon until Saipan was declared secure, walked with limp rest of his life, wore scars like badges, proving he'd been there when it mattered. Vinny Romano watched his best friend die, private named Johnson, shot through throat during patrol, bled out in Vinny's arms in less than 3 minutes. Nothing anyone could do, no medic close enough, no equipment adequate for a wound that catastrophic. Just slow death while Vinny held him and whispered lies about going home, about surviving, about seeing families again. Lies dying men needed to hear even when everyone knew truth. By July 9th, when Saipan was declared secure, the 40 Thieves had lost 12 men killed, 9 wounded seriously enough for medical evacuation, 3 missing presumed dead. Total casualties, 24 out of original 40, 60% casualty rate, higher than predicted 73% no. But close enough. Devastating regardless. Rob looked at 16 survivors, hollow-eyed, gaunt, lost 30 to 40 pounds each. Malaria fevers, dysentery, wounds, but alive. 16 criminals who'd started in Briggs, who'd been given choice between prison and combat, who'd proven worst Marines could become best when properly motivated. Marine commanders estimated 40 Thieves reconnaissance reduced overall 2nd Division casualties by 15%. Division suffered 2,949 casualties on Saipan. 15% reduction meant approximately 442 fewer, but that was just 2nd Division. 4th Division also benefited from intelligence. Total estimate 2,000 Marines came home because 40 Thieves gave them eyes. 2,000 brothers who didn't die going blind. 2,000 families who didn't get telegrams. But 24 Thieves were dead. Rob knew their names, their ages, their hometowns, knew Marcus Cooper and Tommy Carson and all the others who'd proven criminals could be heroes and paid for proof with their lives. August 1944. Marine Corps officially adopted Scout Sniper Platoon doctrine based on 40 Thieves model. Every regiment would have equivalent unit, not recruiting from Briggs, but using same tactics, same training, same mission. Deep reconnaissance, independent operations, intelligence gathering behind enemy lines. The 40 Thieves had created template, their sacrifice-purchase doctrine that would save thousands of lives over decades. But Rob Mitchell couldn't celebrate. 24 men were dead. Doctrine felt like poor consolation for coffins and telegrams and families destroyed. He'd promised them purpose, promised them meaning, promised them chance to prove criminals could be heroes. They'd proven it. Cost was everything. The surviving Thieves mustered out November 1944. Most went home. Some stayed in Marines. All carried ghosts. Rob returned to Pennsylvania. Age 32, carried Distinguished Service Cross, Silver Star, 2 Bronze Stars, Purple Heart for shrapnel wounds nobody mentioned. Kept medals in drawer, never displayed them, never looked at them, didn't need reminders of cost. He married Helen Richardson, March 1945, VA hospital nurse who treated returning Marines. Understood combat trauma without needing explanations. Their first conversation happened in a hospital cafeteria. She'd seen him sitting alone, coffee going cold. Recognized the look. Combat fatigue. The thing they didn't have adequate words for yet. You have that look, like you're still at war. Rob met her eyes, saw understanding that civilians didn't possess. I recruited 40 criminals, trained them, led them to Saipan. 24 didn't come home. I keep wondering if different decisions would have changed outcomes. Helen's response was direct. True, maybe, maybe not. You gave them purpose, gave them meaning. 24 died as Marines, not criminals. You gave them that. 16 lived because you trained them to survive. You gave them that too. They married 6 months later. Had 2 children, Robert Mitchell Jr., born 1946. Sarah Mitchell, born 1948. Built life around them. Rob became mayor of small Pennsylvania town in 1952. Served 30 years. Good mayor. Fair. Focused on keeping people safe. Making rules that protected rather than restricted. But never spoke about war. Never attended veteran events. Never gave interviews. When asked about military service, his answer never varied. I served in Pacific. Led reconnaissance unit. Did my job. That's all. His children didn't know details. Didn't know about 40 thieves. Didn't know about criminals becoming heroes. Didn't know about bicycle reconnaissance, or Marcus Cooper dying in caves, or Tommy Carson calling for mother with his last breath. The nightmare started immediately after returning home. Never stopped. 3 times a weekly minimum. Sometimes every night for weeks. Always same dreams. Marcus in darkness. Tommy's fever. The 3 executed Marines Marcus died to rescue. Japanese civilians jumping from cliffs. All 24 ghosts cycling through his sleep. Helen would wake at 3 a.m. finding Rob downstairs. Kitchen, coffee untouched. Staring at nothing. She'd sit with him, hold his hand, wait until he could speak. I see them, Marcus, Tommy, all 24. I recruited them from Briggs, promised them purpose, got them killed. Helen's response never changed. Patient. True, you gave them choice. They chose combat. They knew risks. They went anyway. That's not your fault. The logic was sound. Rob's conscience disagreed. Robert Jr. remembered growing up with father's nightmares, hearing dad downstairs at 3 a.m., mom going to him, quiet voices, sometimes names, Marcus, Tommy, the kid from Texas, the boxer from Kentucky, names without context, ghosts without stories. Just pieces of trauma that shaped their household without explanation. 1963. Military historians wanted interviews about 40 thieves. Marine Corps documenting special operations history. Wanted first-hand accounts. Rob refused. I did my job. Others did more. Talked to them. Historian persisted. Explained historical importance. Explained doctrine. Rob developed was still being used. Rob's answer didn't change. 16 survivors can tell you if they want. I'd rather not. 1975. Navy planned ceremony. Honor reconnaissance units. Wanted Rob to attend. Receive recognition. Speak to modern Marines. Rob declined. Men who deserve honor are 24 who didn't come home. They paid highest price. I just gave orders. Honor them, not me. 1988, Marine Corps wanted to name reconnaissance school building after Rob Mitchell. Formal dedication, plaque, history. Rob refused. Threatened legal action if they used his name without permission. Marine Corps backed down. Named building after Colonel Bradley instead. Bradley was dead. Couldn't object. October 15, 2011. Robert Mitchell died at home. Age 96, heart failure. Helen beside him. Robert Jr. and Sarah present. Last words were confused, fragmented, speaking to people dead 67 years. Tell Marcus the 3 got killed anyway. Tell him it wasn't worth it. Tell Tommy he was too young. Should have sent him home. Tell Danny I'm sorry. Tell all 40 I'm sorry. Then silence. Heart stopped. Nightmares ended after 66 years. Funeral was small, 70 people, family, town officials, few veterans. No World War II survivors. Other 15 thieves were all dead. Rob was last. Obituary ran 2 paragraphs. Robert Mitchell, 96 Mayor 1952 to 1982, died October 15th. Survived by wife Helen, son Robert Jr., daughter Sarah, 6 grandchildren. World War II Pacific veteran. No mention of 40 thieves, no mention of Saipan, no mention of doctrine or criminals or heroes. Rob wanted it that way. November 2011, month after funeral. Robert Jr. cleaning father's house. Helen moved to assisted living. Couldn't maintain house alone. Robert sorting through lifetime of possessions. Found footlocker in attic. Military issue? Locked. Key taped to bottom. He opened it. Inside found artifacts from war father never discussed. Letters, photographs, maps, journal, medals never displayed. The journal was leather-bound, cracked with age. Robert sat on attic floor, started reading, couldn't stop. Entry after entry, spanning March 1943 to November 1944. Private thoughts of man who'd carried weight for 66 years. January 1944, recruited 40 men from Briggs, all criminals, all given choice. They chose combat, I'll train them. Then Saipan, some won't come home, but ones who do will prove criminals can be heroes. June 15, 1944. Landed Saipan this morning. 40 thieves pushed inland, identified 17 Japanese positions by noon, discovered 37 tanks. Naval gunfire destroyed targets we found. Marcus saved command post. Single bazooka shot, one tank. Changed entire battle. Kid's a hero. June 17, 1944. Marcus dead. Cave rescue. Freed 3 prisoners. Japanese ambush. Marcus covered escape. 12 rounds. Dead instantly. The 3 he rescued were recaptured next day. Executed. Marcus died for nothing. My fault. Should have been there. Should have stopped him. July 6, 1944. Tommy Carson dead. Malaria. Fever 106. Hallucinating at end. Called for mother. Kid was 17. Should have sent him home when I found out. Kept him because unit needed him. Because I was selfish. Now he's dead. July 10th, 1944. Saipan secure. Final count 12 killed. 9 wounded. 3 missing. 60% casualties. We saved approximately 2,000 Marines. But I can name all 24 who didn't come home. That's difference between strategy and grief. Final entry, November 1944, returning home. 16 survived, and all changed, and all carrying ghosts. I recruited criminals. Trained them. Led them. Lost 24. 16 proved criminals can be heroes. 24 proved cost of proving anything. Marines adopted our doctrine. Our sacrifice purchased tactics that will save thousands. But Marcus is still dead. Tommy is still dead, and I'll carry them until I die. Robert Jr. finished reading. Understanding, finally. Understanding nightmares. Understanding refusals. Understanding why father never spoke. He'd been carrying 24 ghosts 66 years, carrying guilt for decisions that saved 2,000 but cost 24, carrying weight of turning criminals into heroes and watching them die, proving it. December 2011. Robert contacted Marine Corps Historical Division, provided father's journal, maps, documents, photographs, complete record Rob had kept hidden. Marine historians were stunned. 40 thieves were known but details sparse. Most participants dead. Records incomplete. Rob's journal filled gaps, provided first-hand account, answered questions historians debated for decades. They asked Robert for permission to publish, make public, include an official history. Robert agreed. Father didn't want recognition while alive, but stories should be told. 24 who died deserve recognition. 16 who survived deserve honor. And Dad deserves to be remembered for what he did rather than what he refused. May 2012. National Museum Marine Corps dedicated exhibit, 40 Thieves First Scout Snipers. Robert Jr. and Sarah attended. 6 grandchildren. Helen in wheelchair. 91 years old but insisted on coming. Exhibit included photographs, maps, equipment, 1 bicycle from Garapon reconnaissance. Japanese officer's diary recovered post-war mentioning American ghosts who infiltrated capital. Major Takeshi Yamada's diary, June 17, 1944. Americans infiltrated Garapon. Discovered evidence, afternoon, June 17th. Bicycle tracks, wrong size. Cigarette butts, American brand. Boot prints, American military issue. They were inside our capital. What they saw, we don't know. But 5 days later, when Marines attacked, they had perfect intelligence. Knew every position, every gun, as if they'd mapped everything. We never had chance. 8 surviving scout snipers attended. Not from Rob's platoon, those 16 all dead by 2011, but from later units formed using 40 Thieves model, oldest 87, youngest 83, all used same tactics, same training, same doctrine Rob developed. One spoke, Staff Sergeant William Martinez, Vietnam Reconnaissance. We trained using Mitchell's doctrine, Deep recon, independent ops. Everything came from 40 thieves, from 40 criminals who proved rules could be broken, from Captain Mitchell who carried weight of 24 deaths, 66 years. We owed him. Navy SEAL Commander attended. Captain James Wilson spoke about lineage. Modern SEAL reconnaissance doctrine traces directly to 40 thieves. Deep penetration, independent operations, living behind enemy lines, using unconventional tactics. Everything began with 40 criminals on Saipan in 1944. They created template. We refined it. Foundation is theirs. Captain Mitchell's. Plaque unveiled. Bronze. Simple. Words Rob would have hated but world needed. The 40 Thieves. Scout Sniper Platoon 6th Marines. June through July 1944. Saipan, led by Captain Robert Mitchell. 40 criminals became Marines. 24 became heroes. 16 became legends. Their doctrine created modern reconnaissance. Their sacrifice saved 2,000 lives. They proved impossible wasn't. Helen studied plaque. Tears on face. He carried them 66 years. Marcus, Tommy, 24, every night. Thought he'd failed them. Thought their deaths were his fault. I told him he gave them purpose, gave them meaning. He never believed me. Maybe now he knows. The bicycle from Garapan stood in glass case, one of 5 ridden through enemy capital, recovered by Japanese after war, found in Museum Collection 2010, confirmed through photographs, serial number matched. Robert Jr. stood looking at it. This bicycle his father rode through hell, past 200 Japanese soldiers, for 43 minutes mapping positions that saved lives. Physical proof that story was real, that criminals became heroes, that impossible missions succeeded. Captain Robert Mitchell recruited 40 criminals from military prisons, trained them to think independently, to break rules, to survive by any means. On Saipan, they proved criminals could be heroes, proved breaking rules saved lives, proved worst, Marines could become best warriors. 24 died, 60% casualties. But 2,000 Marines came home because of intelligence 40 thieves provided. 2,000 families who didn't get telegrams. 2,000 lives purchased at cost of 24. Rob Mitchell carried that weight 66 years, refused all recognition, rejected all honors, carried 24 ghosts until heart stopped. But 16 who survived built lives, had families, had children, had grandchildren who exist because criminals became heroes. 40 thieves created doctrine that became Navy SEALs, created tactics that saved thousands, created legacy that endures. And Captain Robert Mitchell, who recruited them, trained them, led them, and lost 24 of them, finally got recognition he spent lifetime refusing. Because sometimes heroes don't want glory. They just want ghosts to rest. And sometimes ghosts rest easier when their story is finally told. When 24 names are remembered, when sacrifice is honored, when world understands that criminals can be heroes when given purpose and chance. That worst can become best. That impossible isn't. Modern Marine reconnaissance units training today using tactics developed by 40 thieves. Deep penetration, independent ops, silent movement, doctrine. Rob Mitchell created 70 years ago, still saving lives, still honoring sacrifice. Screen fades to list of 40 original thieves, 24 names marked with stars, hometowns, how they died. Marcus Cooper is Kentucky killed in cave rescue. Tommy Carson, 17. Texas died of malaria. Each one remembered, each one honored, each one proven that criminals can be heroes when war demands it. That breaking rules sometimes saves more lives than following them. That worst Marines can become best when given purpose worth dying for.